Happy New Year, Wells Maniacs. I am the most underrated wrestling podcast hoster in the world. Host in the world, WellsMania Podcast. And you are running wild with the most underrated wrestling podcast in the world, WellsMania Podcast. Yes, I'm the Kyle Wells, aka WellsMania. Thank you so much for subscribing to the exclusive home for the WellsMania Podcast right here on YouTube. Although, however, this year, 2026, I'm going to try to make a comeback to Spotify. We all know they threw me through the barbershop window in 2025. However, maybe, just maybe, I can get back on Spotify because I know a lot of you love listening to podcasts. But this right here, you get the best of both worlds. Not only can you hear me, but you can see me. Now, speaking of can see me, check out the newest addition to the WellsMania Podcast studio. We got the John Cena LJNs back there. Shout out to my old man who came over and put those corner wall shelves up for me. So thank you, Pops. I love you. This is episode 203 of WellsMania Podcast, the first episode of 2026. Now, I was sitting there wondering, how do I start off 2026? 2025 was arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest year of my life. So how do we run it back in 2026? And I thought, well, there it is right there. He has been dominating social media because of video that he posted that went viral. And I'm talking about Brock Lesnar Guy. Now, I will bring up BLG in just a moment. But if you have not seen the video, you can go to Brock Lesnar Guy's official verified Twitter and you can watch the video. But I'm going to read you what he commented. And I want you all in the comments to just give me your opinion because I've seen a lot of y'all's opinions. But if you haven't weighed in how you feel, go ahead and let me know in the comments after I finish reading this. So Brock Lesnar Guy posted this. The end. ... For over 25 years, I've experienced some amazing moments attending wrestling shows, but now ... It's time to move on. I knew I was running out of time with this, which is why I hit it hard this year. What an incredible year it was, especially with John Cena's retirement tour. I need to focus on other things now, which I will be sharing with you guys very soon. But as far as attending wrestling shows ... It's time for me to move on. I will still be posting content ... I love all the dots. Stay tuned. The end or ... to be continued. Now that video has gone so viral that MJF quote tweeted Brock Lesnar Guy's retirement video, and I'm using this in air quotes. Wrestlers, we need to start hitting fans again. So without further ado, my special guest to kick off 2026, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Brock Lesnar Guy. What's going on, brother? ...
Here I
am. So we're going to jump right into it. MJF responded to it. Did you think that you would have got the reaction that you did when you did that video and posted it to your social media?
I'm going to be completely honest with you, Kyle. Like, when I posted this video, like, I honestly didn't know what to expect. Because like I said, it's just like I kind of need to focus on other things right now, which we'll get into in a second. But it was just like I did not like I expected some waves, but like it apparently created some tidal waves. And then obviously, as you said, MJF toned in. So I guess maybe it's good that I took a break because maybe I would have gotten hit if I would have gone to Dynamite maybe this Wednesday which is tonight actually.
Dude, so. I cannot believe that MJF weighed in on that. I mean, I can, but I can't. And so many people have just given their 2 cents on your video. But like I said at the very beginning of this episode of WellsMania Podcast, I thought, how am I going to kick off 2026? And then a hero came along, you. And I was like, shout out to Mariah Carey right there. I was like, I got to get Mike on. I got to get Brock Lesnar Guy on because I feel like now I'm no Chris Van Vliet by any means, but having you on this episode and the traction that I'm hoping that this episode will get will also give people an opportunity to actually hear you out, because have you gone public addressing all the hate that you've been receiving from that video?
Well, before I go into the hate, let me just say, I know you said like, oh, you're no Chris Van Vliet, but let me just say, as far as like comparing you to Chris Van Vliet, thank you for like all your positivity, because you and him bring a lot of positivity to the wrestling community. So thank you for that, and keep doing what you guys are doing. But as far as
Appreciate
like,
that. Thank you very much.
yeah, of course. But as far as like all the hate, now I've been dealing with the hate since day one. And it's like I've gotten to a point where like, yeah, of course there's some tweets that come through, Instagrams or whatever, DMs or whatever that come through, and they kind of do hit to the heart, because like sometimes they'll like try to strike a chord with me. But then it's just like it's happened so much over the years that I feel like I've just been kind of like, become numb to it. I got tough skin, so I can deal with it. But then I won't lie, like some of the comments that have come through this time, and the fact that it's just like one after another, it's not like, 1, 2 comments, that's it, whatever. I could brush those off easily. But man, like I remember, because like I posted that New Year's Eve at around like 7 p.m. our time. And it was just like, the rest of the night, I didn't like really look at the responses as much, because, I went to my friend's house and we celebrated New Year's Eve. And of course, like I chimed in, I looked in, but then it wasn't really until like the next morning where I was just like, and then like more comments came in and everything. And obviously, people have been up all night because of New Year's. So like,
and drinking.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe the timing on that, I should have thought about that with more alcohol induced comments coming through. That's
right.
Actually a really good point. I never even thought about that. But then, so I'm like waking up, and then like, I'm not gonna lie, like, January 1st, when I woke up, because that was, that whole week between Christmas, New Year's, it's like, I don't know what day it was. I think it was Thursday, Wednesday.
Very weird time of the year.
What day it was. I think it was Thursday, actually. So, I'm just like sitting like in my bed, just like looking at like the comments. I'm just like, damn. And I'm not even like trying to look for the comments. They're just there to come through. I even got like I don't know, I was getting notifications for some of these comments, because it's just like some of them just come through like that. It's just like I got to really look into like these settings on how like notifications come through, because it's all screwed up. Right. But right when it was kind of like really starting to like hit me. And at the end of the day, it's just like, I'm not like, the haters will never, do me out. Like I just like, they're just spewing hate. That's what they do. But then, I think it was around noon my time. I can't remember exactly what time it was. I get this text from one of my friends, and it's just like in all caps, bro. And it's a post from John Cena. And at first I don't see the post immediately. So I'm just like what? So I click on it. So then I see my picture from that. I mean, this picture is like 10 years old. I'm just like what? And it doesn't register for a second. I'm like, oh, John Cena posted that? And I'm just like, and if people are unaware, his bio in Instagram says, "Welcome to my Instagram. I will post stuff without context for your own interpretation." So it's just like, it goes along the hand and fist with that. So it's just like, whoa. And it's his first post of 2026, just coming off his retirement tour. And I'm just like sitting there, and just a picture of me on his Instagram page is 24 million followers Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was joking with someone
right there.
I was joking. It was like, because I'm sure James Gunn follows him. She's like, oh, James Gunn probably saw my picture. I'm like, what?
People are like, who is this guy? And then hopefully you've gained a lot more followers since then.
Yeah, it's like it's like I said, my social media has not shut up. So
your video, and I'm looking at it in real time right now, as of me saying this, 3.1 million views. And the comment section is just flooded.
And that's where, like, and I will say, like, Instagram, Twitter, X, they're like night and day differences. Now, don't get me wrong, there was hate on Instagram, but like a lot more positivity. But you go to X and you look at those comments, yeah, that's a whole nother level.
Twitter, X is the Wild West.
Yes, it's just like
all the social medias. That one is probably the most toxic.
And it used to not be like that. It was like, I remember that used to be my main jam was Twitter. And then obviously when I started kind of like slow, because it was like a slow transition to when I went fully Instagram to like full, because like, 10, 15 years ago, I was all Twitter, full blown. Oh, yeah. But then, stuff started changing slowly. And then Instagram started becoming my jam. And now that's my main platform.
And I've noticed that too, that Twitter has just gone downhill completely. Nowhere near as hot as it once was.
Yeah.
I actually canceled. It really is. I actually canceled my blue check mark verified subscription. I canceled it because when I got that, I thought, okay, this might help elevate the WellsMania podcast, but it didn't really do that. And then I started looking at my other social media platforms. I absolutely took off on Facebook. I took off on TikTok. My Instagram started getting more momentum and steam. And I did all that natural with no funding behind it, no blue check marks. So I thought, man, the one platform where I was really trying to get that verification and really take off, it just plummeted. So I thought to myself, I don't need that blue check mark anymore. And if I do want it, I'm going to use it on the other social medias where I'm having greater success. But man, yeah, the John Cena posting your picture on Instagram, what a great way to kick off 2026. And I was like, well, that's the picture that I'm going to use to promote Brock Lesnar Guy's appearance on this episode. And I'm going to try to do something a little bit different this year. I'm going to try to hype up the guest reveals even more, doing the silhouette. And dude, your pose is so iconic. I wasn't fooling anybody. Literally everybody was flooding saying, that's no surprise. That's Brock Lesnar Guy. So
I knew exactly where the picture was from the Cena, what Cena posted. And the funny thing so what's funny about that picture that Cena posted, that was actually, so go back and we're going back to another crazy weekend. So I'm sure, and this is something we don't have to go too deeply into it. If you remember my episode of being swerved with Finn Balor's phone. So
how could I forget?
So it was that weekend. So that was the day before Royal Rumble 2016. That's when AJ Styles debuted in the Rumble. And then the next night on Raw, that's where that picture was taken from. And what's apropos about that picture. So, and obviously, I guess if people didn't know, they know now. I have many variations of the shirt, and actually, this is only 3 of them. I think I have like 5, maybe 6. I have to like double check because like there's been so many that have cycled through, mainly with the same design. But then I have like an updated one that came out a couple years ago, same color and everything.
You just solved a wrestling unsolved mystery, because a lot of people thought, oh, Brock Lesnar Guy only has one shirt. No, he doesn't, ladies and gentlemen. He's got more than one.
It's like when
go ahead.
It's like when Undertaker retired, he unveiled. So now I'm unveiling everything.
Yes.
But so going back to the picture the Cena posted, what's funny was, I do not, and you know what? I should probably maybe display the original shirt that I wore, because I wore that for a few years. So what's funny is I'm wearing the original shirt in that, and that's actually the same arena, the same spot where I reacted for Brock, but many years later in 2016, day after Rumble, and that was the last time I wore it. I retired that shirt that same day, and the only other time it was used, you may have seen, like years ago, I did a post with CM Punk at Pro Wrestling Tees, and I had him put one of the shirts on, and the shirt that he wore was the original shirt. So it came out of retirement for one day that he wore it, and then it has been stowed away, buried somewhere in my closet. I think I know where to find it. So like I said, I think I'll bring it, and it'd actually be like a nice content video to maybe post about the shirts too, because obviously that is one of my number one questions is like, what's up with the shirt?
Yeah, which I think that you should definitely put that original Brock Lesnar Guy shirt in a shadow box and put it right there on your wall.
I don't know if you're familiar with Wrestling for Sale. He does like a lot of she sells like a lot of like vintage t-shirts. He actually hit me up. I kind of thought he was joking, but he was like actually hitting me up about like buying my shirts. I'm like, I don't know if I can sell those, man. Like I said, maybe he was joking, maybe he wasn't, but I was just like, I just don't know if I can sell those.
The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, said it best. Everybody's got a price. So if you're watching and you have an offer for Brock Lesnar Guy, let us know in the comments, and maybe Michael take you up on that deal. You just gave me a really cool idea, and you'll remember this. So when we were out in Las Vegas last year for WrestleMania 41, 23 years of John Cena's career, and they had like all of the John Cena shirts.
Yes.
And I just thought of this when you were talking. How cool would it be, not necessarily at next year's WrestleMania, but maybe some WrestleManias down the road, like a fan exhibit where you would have, WWE's biggest fan, John Glick's white sport coat on display, Frank the Clown's original clown gear, the sign guy's first sign, your shirt, and his red hat, your shirt. Like, how cool would it be for an actual fan experience at WWE World. I mean, that's an idea that I think people would really think is awesome because it makes us, the fans, even more enthralled in the product, having our own exhibit at WWE World. So, Triple H, if you're listening, take my idea and run wild with it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily something they would like look into, but like if they did, I would gladly contribute at least one of the shirts, if not both of them, or if I have more than both. But like I said, I would be glad to contribute. So,
and of course, green shirt guy. Can't forget green shirt guy.
I was about to say, like, I don't know, like like Vladimir. I don't know what you would get from him, but like
having him there doing autographs.
Just like he's actually there. Just like hello.
And that's a good question. We'll go into that. So you think of super fans, and Vladimir is obviously the godfather of super fans. Him and the guy who used to, and I believe he passed away last year, the guy who used to dress up like Hulk Hogan. I'm spacing on what his name. Yeah, he passed away last year.
I feel like I would know. Like I said, I can't. I'd have to like look into that, but because I feel like it hasn't been. I feel like it hasn't been forever since I've seen him. I feel like I've definitely seen him like post pandemic, but like
I'm almost certain because last year was a very rough year for Hulk Hogan and Hulk Hogan fans because we lost. Obviously, we lost Hulk Hogan.
Right. Yeah.
We lost Rick Derringer, who was the
That's right. Hulk Hogan's that wasn't too long before Hogan, right?
Correct. And then I'm almost certain that the diehard Hulk Hogan fan, and I am spacing on what his name is. I want to say
you know what? Okay, so you know what? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because like I read so much stuff and see stuff. I think now, like I said, I remember seeing a report about a Hulk Hogan fan, but it was not tie-dye guy, because I would definitely remember if it was tie-dye guy. I want to say now my mind's starting to like trigger. I think there used to be a guy that actually dressed up as Hulk Hogan, and he was, and even back in like the 90s, I've seen like clips of this guy. He seemed older even then. So I feel like that's might be who they're referring to, because I'm not gonna lie, I feel like if tie-dye guy is, if something would happen, I feel like I would have been looped around into that. But
right.
Like I said, there could who knows really, but like I think they're referring to like, and I don't know what that guy's situation was back in like WCW or what his name was, or I mean Hulk Hogan guy or whatever it was, but I want to say that's who they're referring to. But like I said, this is just something from I kind of remember long ago.
But that's the thing, man, is like those guys, Vladimir and the Hulk Hogan fan sign guy, they kind of ushered in the era of super fans. And then you and WWE's biggest fan, John Glick and Frank the Clown, and I feel like green shirt guy and Kerry, who always sits front row as well, the ringside beard guy and his significant other. They're always
ringside beard was another one to get posted by Cena as well.
Yeah. And so it's just kind of, do you ever like put yourself in the same category as a Vladimir? Like, do you ever look at yourself like, oh my God, I really am one of those super fans? Because I know you are a super fan, but you're a very authentic guy, and I've known you for over a decade now. And I know a lot of people give you hate, mainly because it's jealousy. Let's be real. But as it comes to like passionate and dedicated, it doesn't get more passionate and dedicated than somebody like yourself. So when I throw you in the category of super fan, you are in that rare air league with those other guys that I mentioned. Do you feel like you are in that category?
I'll definitely run with, I'll consider myself a super fan for sure, but I don't like consider myself, like, I don't put any levels to it. I was about to say, like, there's definitely been evolutions with it. Like, Vladimir is definitely the original. He is the one that, like, because like that was during the time when like sports and like WWF was like changing with Hulk Hogan coming in, because prior to that it wasn't like it wasn't like a spectacle. It was just more just like rough cut wrestling, whatever. I mean, whatever, you know, like the 1970s style, whatever you call it. Then like Vladimir, and there was like a couple, like there's a, I'm sure you've seen Vladimir's documentary. There was like a friend he had that was with him too. I think, I don't know if this streak is still intact, but he was like at every single WrestleMania since the first one. So I think he was kind of hand in hand with Vladimir too. I forget his name, but I know he's in his documentary. So then from there, Vladimir then took it all the way into the 90s. And then there was a guy that like always looked like, he almost kind of looked like Undertaker in a sense. He had this like long hair. Not to confuse, there's another guy with long hair. I'll get to him in a second. But like back in the 90s, there was like a guy with long hair. There was like a kid with like a bowl cut. I feel like there could be a couple other people in them. Forget, like tie-dye guy. Who's I think he's still running wild for sure, but like he was definitely like 90s, kind of came around that, and then like 2000s, I want to say like maybe he was even late 90s, maybe he popped up, but like late 90s, early 2000s, that's when Rick Sign Guy came up and changed the whole game with like, you know, showing his signs and everything. And then that's kind of like when I started going to shows, you know, and that it's funny, like, you know, all the questions that people ask me, I always would ask, and I never got up in his business, but like in my mind, I was always like asking myself, like, how does Rick do this? Like, how does he get at all these shows? I don't get it. And then just slowly but surely, like, you know, late 2000s, when I first really started going like out to shows, like outside of my hometown, like that's when I was like starting to figure stuff out. And then that's when I met like Frank the Clown, and WWE's biggest fan. And then we kind of like, we're the three, and like, and honestly, I'll give Frank credit because I don't like to give him a lot of credit, but I'll give him credit as far as maybe being the first person to bring it into the social media era. And then obviously from there, you know, I got into the mix, and then like everything, and it also coincides with stuff that happened on TV. So it's just like you take that and then keeping it fresh on social media. And then you have like other guys that came through, like Green Shirt Guy. He was that, and he's been like, I feel like people don't realize how long he's really been around for. Like if you go back to WrestleMania 29, Rock and Cena twice in a lifetime in New York, I'm sitting right next to Green Shirt Guy, but I don't think people were really talking about him back then. But he was still same hat, same shirt. And like you said, you know, I'm sure he has multiple copies of the shirt, but it's just like metamorphosized, and then going to like, you know, Ringside Beard, who's like one of the latest ones, and he's been around too. And then there's that other guy with the long hair. I feel like I see him at a lot of NXT shows now. Him and his mom that looks that.
Yes. And some people say that he looks like Tiny Tim, the old singer from way back, tiptoe through the tulips.
Okay, I'll take a little picture of that.
Google Tiny Tim, and that's what people have called him, because I don't know what his name is. And here's another thing too, is I have tried so hard to get the super fans on episodes of WellsMania Podcast, because you're one of them. Your guys' stories are, to me, fascinating. And I know I'm not alone, because there's so many people out there that are like, how did they get to where they are? How do they do what they do? What kind of person are they really? Like, are they real? Are they fake? So I'm always like, man, I want to give you and Frank and John and Carrie and, you know, Green Shirt Guy and any super fan out there, whoever wants to come run wild on WellsMania Podcast. Like I said, I'm no Chris Van Vliet by any means, but I feel like people would really tune into these episodes because it's curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
It's
hopefully maybe I can be like the conduit to like spark it.
I'm taking a page out of John Cena's book. You know, he posted you to kick off 2026. So maybe I'll reach out to every person that John Cena posts along the way and try to get them to come on, because like I said, man, there's like a mystery surrounding you guys. But you are just like everybody else. You are a diehard wrestling fan who may be a little bit more better off in some financial situations than other people, but it's not like you're out there throwing it in people's faces. Like, I feel like you are a very blessed guy who has these opportunities to go to the shows. And if you were to ask somebody else, if you were in Brock Lesnar Guy's shoes, you would do the thing. And if they said no, they would be lying. So I will never understand, outside of jealousy and envy, why people hate on people like you, Frank, you know, John, all the other super fans. It always pisses me off, because I had a couple guys reach out to me and they're like, I can't believe that you're going to have Brock Lesnar Guy on your podcast. And I'm like, I messaged them back and I'm like, why the hell are you so mad like towards Brock Lesnar guy? And then crickets. I get nothing in return.
Yeah,
So
it's almost like it's I mean, and you know, here's the thing. This is why I've always loved John Cena so much, because he went through the same stuff, and like he's top tier. I don't consider myself top tier like John Cena at all, but like you look at John Cena, he was getting those polarized reactions like, 20 years. I mean, it 2006 was 20 years ago now. That's so crazy to me. But like 2006,
yeah.
that was like when
Wow.
really the hate picked up for him, like going into like like when he inducted William the Refrigerator Perry into the Hall of Fame in 2006, and then they were chanting "Fu Cena" full blast during the Hall of Fame ceremony. Like,
Yeah.
and then of course WrestleMania 22, which was my first WrestleMania that I ever attended. I'll never forget the hate, and then he overcame it, and then that's where his whole moniker comes from, Rise Above Hate. So it's just like I've always been just like, it'd be one thing if he didn't even, post my picture on his Instagram. I'd still be looking to his like way of life as like support, like going through it. But then that just tripled when, he it essentially showed me support. And it's just like, I'll never forget that.
Yeah, and I said this to you when I had you on the Thank You Cena episode to
Which
close
feels like
out
an
the
eternity ago now, because so much has happened.
right. So much has happened from that episode till now. And I just, like I told you, I said I love the connection that you and John Cena have. And I feel like John, he's just so genuine where he remembers people like you who dedicate their lives to going to the shows to support him and all the other superstars. And when I was watching John Cena's final match, which I'll ask you here in just a little bit how you felt watching that, I saw him look at WWE's biggest fan, John Glick. And I was like, man, that is such a really cool moment for both Johns. Like
Yeah.
John Glick and John Cena, because that's how I met John Cena, was through John Glick.
Yeah.
So the fact that John Glick got that opportunity with John Cena at John Cena's final match, I just thought that was a really cool, full circle moment right there. But I will ask you, because you were there, how did you feel going into John Cena's final match, and how did you feel after John Cena tapped out to Gunther?
So I remember going in, like, I feel like now, like, because, when I was a kid, like, I'd be like, and not that wasn't looking forward to it. It's just like stuff doesn't register me right away as I've gotten older. So it's just like stuff doesn't really hit me until once I walk inside that building. So, like, going, like, it feels like his last match, but it's just like, at the same time, it's just like, this isn't registering really. So, like, I get inside the building, and then, like, the show hasn't started. So, like, we're in there, like, maybe, an hour before Saturday night's main event even goes on here. So I'm just kind of standing there. I'll just never forget. I'm just like standing like right in front of my seat, and I'm just kind of like looking around. I'm just like soaking it in, like breathing it in. It's just like, man, this is actually it. And like, you're looking everywhere, and you see like John Cena's last match, like on like the video walls and everything. There was a countdown clock for it. I don't know if you saw that outside, where they had like a little fan fest area.
Wow.
Outside of like where like the merch was. They had like a couple appearances there. No, it was kind of like low key, but it was just like, that's when it was like really starting to hit. Then, fast forward to like when, the introduction starts. So like, there's something that like that damn Gunther's music that like keeps playing in my head now. And because he switched back, yeah, and that's the music he switched back to, because I think he used that music in NXT, I think. So now he's like throwing it back with that music. So then, but I'll never forget the feeling when they shut the lights off. And I got like a bunch of my reactions. If you want to go check it out on my Instagram, right before his music hit. And then before I forget to mention, I don't know why I don't have the hat here. Actually, you know what? I think I do have the hat here. Give me 1 second.
Oh, you're good.
Oh, you know
what? Look at Brock Lesnar guy's awesome setup over there.
I lied. I do not have the hat down here. But you know what? That's irregardless. So this, so really quickly, this is an armband I caught from him many years ago, and this is a wristband I caught from him years ago. And I wore these two items on my arms, and then I
love that
the hat where I caught Elimination Chamber 2012. I caught his hat, and then I had him sign it like a month later. And then so I wore all three of those items.
Would you say that those are, so this is kind of a sidetrack question. Would you say those are some of the most valuable things that you have in your entire collection? Like, what's the most favorite piece of memorabilia that you have in your collection?
Honestly, I'd have to say the hat, which like I said, I wish I don't. I thought I had it down here, but like I said, I've been moving a bunch of stuff around. However, that hat just like symbolizes everything because like he wore that hat on his head, and I'll never forget. Like, I mean, you've seen all of John Cena's entrances. Like, normally he keeps that hat on until he decides to throw it out to the crowd. But if you go back and you watch his ambulance match against Kane, it was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He when he comes out, he takes it off for a second. He's kind of just like feeling it and like touching it, and then he puts it back on, then runs in the ring, and then throws it on the crowd. So there was like something about that hat where it was like meant to like just like almost
bind you.
I swear to God, I almost broke my rib cage trying to leap for it because it like it tipped off my fingers and it fell, and then I like grasped it. So it was it's definitely, and it's it's so funny too because I caught that hat at Elimination Chamber, and who would have known many years at Elimination Chamber right here he would turn heel.
Yeah.
So it's like,
how did you feel about John Cena's heel turn?
So first of all, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this fact, but John Cena turned heel on my 40th birthday. That's
happy 40th birthday right there to you.
Yeah. So I remember I was like debating going to the show. I had just got my passport for the first time, so that came in time. So I was just like, I don't know if I want to go. Like, it's just like, because it's like I've never been, like, technically I was in Canada once, but I was on a kid, so like it was different, like with like passports, back then I don't think you need it because this was like pre 9/11, 90s, so
different world before 9/11 for
yeah,
sure.
Exactly. So going to Toronto, which I've always wanted to go to Toronto, so it's just like, man, it's on my birthday, and then right like a week and a half before they announced The Rock, so it's just like, wow, I think I gotta go, and then like literally almost like magic, they released like a ticket like to my liking. So I was just like, so I snagged that ticket. It was like right on the aisleway. And then I rented a car and I drove 8 hours from Chicago to Toronto, which honestly, like when you really think about it, like I didn't really ever think about, like, Toronto's actually not terribly far from Chicago. So it's just
really?
like, I could easily drive, because like I've driven to Detroit many times, and most, like a majority of the drive is driving to Detroit, because then once you get into Detroit, you go through the Bridge to Canada, driving in there, and it's just another 3 hours. And man, it's just like, it's almost like a night and day. Like those roads going up into Canada were so clean. I'll never forget it. But then getting up there, and it's like, day before my birthday, SmackDown, first time in the Air Canada Center, which is now known as the Scotiabank Arena. They did SmackDown there. So again, another legendary arena, because that's the same arena where Edge and John Cena had that legendary TLC match. So a lot of history in that building, obviously.
Yeah.
So and then Rogers Center, Toronto Skydome. That's where Rock and Hogan happened, and then that's where Ultimate Warrior and Hogan happened. Yep. And that's literally only, I think, as far as like big events televised, I know they've run like house shows there, like Raws and stuff, but as far as like big pay-per-views, I think it's just those 3 shows, the 2 WrestleManias, and then the Elimination Chamber. So like just being in that atmosphere where Rock and Hogan happened, I mean, that alone was just like, okay, this is cool as hell. I'm glad I'm here. And then seeing like, because like, big part of my wrestling travels, back in the day, was seeing John Cena and CM Punk's feud. So getting to see them mix it up in the chamber, man, if it was just that, I would have just been like, birthday made.
Yeah.
But then the chamber raises, and then Rock comes out with Travis Scott, and then Cena kicks Cody in the balls. And funny story.
You got that plaque behind you right there, from Elimination Chamber.
Yes, and then that's a piece of the ring right there.
That is incredible. That's a great piece right there.
And it's got my birthday on it. And what's funny too, it's like my birthday, like obviously it falls on March 1st. So like back in the day, pay-per-views always fell at the end of the month. So like it was never a thing where like, oh, a pay-per-view is going to fall on my birthday. And then here we are.
One did. Last year was an odd year, man, because the Royal Rumble was in February. That was the first time that the Royal Rumble was ever not in January, and it was here in my home city of Indianapolis, of all places.
What an incredible weekend that was, man.
Oh, man. And that was my first Rumble live in person. And,
oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And I got to be a part of WWE media. I got to cover.
That's awesome.
For WellsMania Podcast, I got to cover the Rumble. So I got to interview some superstar media press junket, which it was just so surreal, man, because I'm like seeing all the other big names in what we do. Yeah. And, Denise Salcedo, Sean Ross Sapp, Joey Carney, the one Mona, Chris Van Vliet, so many other very talented wrestling content creators and podcast hosts, and we're all in the same building. And it was just like the same room in the same building. And I was like, man, this is so surreal. Like, it kind of felt like maybe I'm not so underrated like I think I am. Maybe I am rated.
Well, you belong there. Were you at the post press conference too?
So it's weird
because I've heard hit or miss things about trying to get into that.
We were told that not all of us were going to be able to go to the post-show press conference, and only a select few would be able. Unfortunately, in the moment, I was told that I was not one of the select few. And then I found out afterwards that if I had just walked down there, I could have got in.
Oh, shit.
And that really fired me up. But then once I saw that John Cena was just not his normal John Cena self, I was like, okay, he's not taking really any questions during this press conference. So
can I tell you an insane story that Chris Van Vliet told me?
Yeah, I love insane stories from CVV.
So I've talked to CVV online for I don't even know how long, but I met him in person for the first time at right after Survivor Series when Punk returned in Chicago. So insane night, obviously. So as you know, like anytime he's there, he's usually always in those post press conference venues. So get this. So I see him afterwards. So he's asking me to like show him all my content that I haven't posted yet of like Punk. So he obviously was there. He saw the show. So they come up and grab them to go into the press conference. Nobody knows that Punk is coming out, even the people that are bringing him in. They brought them into the press conference before Punk came out. So he did not get to. So nobody in the press conference post Survivor Series, including Chris Van Vliet, got to see Punk come back because they pulled him in. And that story just always blows my mind because it's at nobody's fault because it was such a tight knit secret.
Right.
So it wasn't like, hey, okay, the show, because like everybody thought the shows, they started rolling the credits. And now, as we know, never trust those credits anymore. However, it's just like, like a once, but it's just like, I'll just never forget. Because like that was the first time we had met and talked in person. That's one of the first stories they told me that just happened. I'm just like, bro,
that is insane. CVV is so. I've met him on several occasions. I've actually interviewed him at Squared Circle Expo. Which, hey, if you're looking for something to do, you should come over to Indianapolis for Squared Circle Expo 6. It is in March of this year. So if you want to come run wild with WellsMania, that'd be. I think you would probably. And I've been around you at wrestling shows, dude. People just bombard you and I love it. I love that for you. I love watching it, and I kind of got a little taste of that when I was at WrestlePalooza because I was standing next to Wheezy Blonde, and of course everybody was just going right towards Wheezy Blonde, but then they saw me standing next to her and they were asking for my picture, and I was like, okay,
because I've seen you've done like a couple collaborations with her. I've seen
and she said this, and it's on record. WellsMania Podcast is her favorite wrestling podcast. Can you believe that?
That's awesome.
It's crazy, man.
Wheezy, I can't speak. Wheezy Blonde is incredible. Yes. We just magically, we didn't even like plan it. We were literally sitting right next to each other for SmackDown in Grand Rapids over the summer when Cena cut the pipe bomb on Punk. And what an incredible moment with.
I saw that. I was like, Wheezy Blonde and Brock Lesnar Guy are sitting right next to each other. I love it.
I'm sure we'll get into my Twitch here in a little bit, but when I've had the idea for like the Twitch for like a while, so of course I picked her brain a little bit as far as like how to get started and everything. So I'm definitely applying all the knowledge. I've studied what everyone else is doing, and obviously still learning. So I'll definitely hit you up for any advice or
sure.
Once I start, because it's like one big thing too is like video editing, man. It's just like at first it's just like I think I could take, but then it's just like because it's one thing when like I post my content at the shows because it's so easy because all I gotta do is point, click, shoot. And I'm very good at like, because I know people like, they'll always give me, she's like, oh, you're staring at your phone. Well, not exactly. Yeah, of course, I'll be kind of like checking everything's in frame, but like I'm very good at still using my own eyes and then the phone's doing the work. So it's just like, there's a lot of things. And like I see a lot of people using like the meta glasses. That was something I was thinking about maybe doing at some point. Never say never in the future, but something maybe try in the future. But as far as like pointing and clicking, and then all you have to do is just post to social media and then maybe edit down a little bit. That stuff, and don't get me wrong, there are complications with one big problem is just like when you have no signal in arena, then you got to kind of wait until after the fact so you don't get the real-time aspects. But it's just like that stuff is easy. But as far as like what those content creators do, like it is a lot of hard work. And like I said, I'll get there. It's just like, and I know they post like a lot like on their social channels, like what comes from the show. So it's like maybe I won't post a lot, maybe I will, as far as like clips. Like because like I said, like I didn't know what I was doing, but I was ready for a reaction if Jericho was going to come out on Raw the other night. Of course, he didn't come, so it's like, oh, you got to worry about that. And then, of course, I'm doing NXT last night, so like the show's like ending, so Oba wins. So it's like, okay, I don't think I need to record anything. Then, of course, he leaves the title in the ring.
Vacates the title, yeah.
So learning things the hard way is just like, you know what, mate, like even if the show's ending and you feel like everything's good, just hit that record button just in case, because you never know what's going to happen. And then I'm seeing their content there, and their numbers did huge. Like all the content creators that covered that on their posts did huge numbers, of course. But it's just like you live and learn. And plus, I'm very new to this, and I'll be lucky to be half of what Wheezy Blonde is with this, if I even become a shred of successful with this. And but it's just like I'm just like I just want to have fun, but I also want to take it seriously too, because this is something I want to like try to get into, and like maybe one thing will lead to another. It can lead me down to another avenue with other stuff. So
this is the next chapter for Brock Lesnar Guy, and we'll go right into it because you did just debut your brand new Twitch at the Brock Lesnar Guy. So if you all have Twitch, be sure to give BLG a follow and check out his content. You talked about how you said you've had this idea for a while. When did it first start coming to your mind that was something that you would possibly do one day? And now that you're here, where do you want your Twitch to go?
So I would say, like, I don't know exactly when, like maybe the first inkling of idea, probably when it first like started taking off. I feel like probably Wheezy Blonde was probably one of the first people that I saw doing it. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But then obviously, she's doing it, in the comfort home or her own home. So like I'm still out at the show. So I'm like, I'm kind of doing stuff like that. So like I was actually like really kind of like homing out my craft, like do like live reactions, like in person, like flipping the phone over and doing it. So I was actually kind of like over this past, because like I'll never forget, like when Cena turned heel, when I flipped the camera around on me, it was
I remember that video
far and my face. And I was just like, I always I wish I could have just like learned the zooms, because then when AJ Lee came back, that was one of my favorite videos I ever did, where I had it perfectly zoomed out. I twisted it, boom. Because I'm not doing I don't like to do the selfie camera. I want to use the actual camera, because you're gonna have better quality on that too. And then when I learned how to like do like the flipping over, because it's like if you have it all the way zoomed out, you're good. Like as long as you can see like those camera frames, you're good. So I was like learning how to do that. So as far as like when I was starting to get the idea, it was really like I was starting to get serious about it, like I said, over the summer, like when I was sitting next to Wheezy Blonde at SmackDown. And like I had known her like previously. I had seen her around like I've talked to her, on Instagram or whatever, and like in person I would see her at shows. But then that was like kind of like the first time where I was kind of serious, when I started like asking her questions about it. But then of course, I'm still in the midst of like, because I knew I'm gonna complete this year. And I knew like, obviously, as you saw from the post, I knew from the middle of 2024, this time is kind of like running out now. But it's just like at the same time, I can't miss Cena's retirement tour. And I got I was maybe not necessarily in a position to hit all these shows, but I made it work, damn it. And I was like, I'm not, and then completing it out with this year. And then of course, I'm sure you saw like with SummerSlam, the whole ticket fiasco. So that was like a whole nother level of like, purchasing a fake ticket off of StubHub, and then getting in there finally, thanks to TickPick. And then Brock Lesnar returning that night. I mean, imagine if I didn't get in the building. Like, I mean, I would have found my win regardless, but you know what I mean? Like it's just like, there's all these like poetic things that have been happening. And now like with this, it's just like, and I feel like, oh man, like, so this is kind of like one thing I want to say as far as like me stepping away from shows for right now. So one big thing, obviously, I'm stepping away is to focus on this, like where I'm sitting right now. I'm gonna stream my first AEW tonight, so I'm very excited about that. I want to get more into this aspect, and two, like I want to integrate myself more into the wrestling community as far as interaction, because, and not that like I'm not interactive, like I like people that approach me, introduce themselves. I'm always like in person at shows. I'm always happy to talk to people, but I feel like with like in the like, as far as like posting content, I feel like I'm not as interactive just because I'm more focusing on the content. I feel like with Twitch, it's just like I get to like interact with people like in the chat, and I feel like it's been a good way to kind of like for people to get to know who exactly I am more, because it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're seeing me at the shows, but like, who the hell is this guy? It's just like, and it was the same questions I was asking about all the super fans, back in the day. It's just like, how are they doing this? How are they able to do it? But it's just like, as far, and I kind of want to hit the nail right on the head here. It's like, I guess never say never, but like, as far as like retirement, I don't consider this retiring, because first of all, this wasn't like a profession. It's just like, this is what I was doing for fun. So who knows what can happen in the future. But as we speak right now, this is something I want to focus on. So I'm going to go full blast with this. I don't know what the hell is going to happen. I sometimes have time, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I feel like it got a good positive response, especially for Monday. I was very happy about Monday. So we'll see. Like I said, third stream tonight. I think I might try to stream TNA tomorrow now. And then of course I'll be streaming SmackDown. And then of course, I don't know, you might know a little bit about this, but like obviously SmackDown is going to be over, and Raw are going to be overseas. So like when you're on Netflix, you're fine. You can watch it whenever it airs. But then on SmackDown here in America, they still air it at the 7 Central time slot. So I'll have to figure out whether I can maybe find a setup to get like the overseas stream, or, worst case scenario, I'll just stream, because I know a lot of the streamers will stream it when it actually happens.
Yeah.
For like the SmackDowns, because I know the SmackDown situation is a little complicated because they still have their thing with USA. Because as far as Netflix, they can air it whenever they want.
And that's the thing, man, is like, don't be so hard on yourself, because practice makes perfect. And the more reps that you put into this, the better you are going to get. And you will be amazed at how good you are at this already, because it'll just click with you. Like, I've been doing this for a long time, and people are always, man, you're so good at that. How did you get to be so good at that? And
I just want to say this. You have great talking skills. Like anytime, like I'll see, and I don't know if I've ever told you this. So, I actually posted about this recently. So in November, it was the 10th anniversary of when I met China at Days of the Dead, and you were there, and I'll get to that.
Yes.
It was it was like literally in November, and then like literally 5 months later, she passed away. And what's crazy was I was never supposed to go to that signing, because I was supposed to be in Atlanta for Survivor Series. That was supposed to be happening the next day. But then you were there, you might remember this. We got a huge blizzard in Chicago, which
yes, we did.
And then I had to fly out the next morning. Was the next possible time I could fly out. So this convention was going on. So it's like, well, what the hell? Let's go through the snow. But I would love to meet China. I don't know if I'll have another opportunity. And had I not gone to that, she passed away. Like, she ended up passing away 5 months later, and I would have never had that opportunity. So it's kind of like the forces from beyond. Like, I've had like so many of those moments where like I feel like I'm
meant to be.
Kind of did this. But going to you, I'll never forget this. So we were who was I with? Oh, I was with my friend Chris, who I think you know. And we were just like walking around the convention, and it was kind of like chill. Like, I mean, there was people there, so people are talking, and I'll never forget the noise, the silence was pierced. All of a sudden I hear Brock Lesnar Guy, and I turn around, it was you, and I was like, dude,
yep.
So I always love that energy that you bring. So
I appreciate that, because I always like making people feel just welcomed. And with me, I'm always what you get is what you see. And I'm a very energetic, very animated person. And I love being positive, and I love making people feel good. And I love putting people over. Like, if no one knew who Brock Lesnar Guy was at that moment, they sure as hell did after I yelled Brock Lesnar Guy, because then people are going to be like, Brock Lesnar Guy? What? That sounds kind of cool. So you just never know when or where you're going to have WellsMania put you over. And I do it to Frank the Clown all the time. Like, I did it with every Wizard World that I would see Frank at. I would start chanting Frank the Clown, and then other people would chime in, and Frank's being Frank, playing to it.
Yep.
And so no, it's funny you bring that up, because I had a car full of my friends, and we made that drive over from Indiana.
Yeah, that's right. Chicago. I don't remember exactly when that blizzard began, but did that affect your travel up here?
Yes, and we almost didn't make it. And I don't want to sound morbid when I say this, but Days of the Dead almost became a reality for all of us that were in my Mountaineer, because there were several times where I slid off the road, or almost got into an accident.
Oh man.
God was definitely on my side that day, getting us to Chicago and to the convention safely. And that was also the first time that I met Bret the Hitman Hart. Was
Oh
at
wow.
that
Oh, I
at
didn't.
that
I was. I
convention.
mean, that was such a long time ago. But yeah, that's crazy. I was there. You know what's crazy too, because you have to take up. So you basically take 65 all the way up, and then you connect with 80. So when you get on to 80, you take that like big ramp that like circles around. So I'll never
Yes.
forget. Me and Frank, we were coming back from Dayton, Ohio. It's when Batista made his return to WWE after like 4 years. And what's ironic about that show, that was Punk's last Raw appearance for 10 years. So it was like a weird like dynamic with that. So when we came home, and then of course you're probably very familiar, like Lake Michigan with that lake effect snowman around like I-80. So like we started like, so at first it was like fine, like we're coming up 65 because like you have to take that because like when you come from Dayton, you go through Indy and then go back up 65. So we're going back up and everything, seemed fine. But then as we started getting closer and closer to Michigan, Lake Michigan, dude,
It's dicey.
Picking up, and I'll never forget, we got on that on ramp and it was just dead stop traffic. We were stuck on an on ramp for like 2 hours, nothing moving. And it was just horrible. And we're coming back from like, I want to say we did stay in Dayton that night because there have been shows I've gone to that have been like 5-6 hours away where I'll literally drive back after the show because I'm insane. But luckily, I think we stayed in a hotel that night and then come back the next day. So we just had the whole day of just like driving. But it did suck just sitting on the off ramp, getting back on the I-80 for 2 hours until we finally made it.
That trip was, the weather is gets a little dicey when you go to those conventions around this time of the year. But you bring up Batista, I just gotta say this real quick. I absolutely love every time I see that clip of Batista and then that fan runs in front and does everyone always thinks that is you. You do not have to confirm nor deny if it is. I kind of like the mystery behind it, if it is you or if it isn't you, because every time I see that clip, I'm like, oh, Brock Lesnar guy is gonna quote it and be like, "You rang? That's me. I'm here." Like, I'm always curious to see how you respond to those tweets.
I've responded. There was a period of time because there'll be like random Twitter accounts that will post something. They'll be like, "Oh, I'll never forget this moment." So a lot of times, and it's happened more than once, they'll post that moment, and then when it like I'm not looking for it, but if it pops up in my feed, I'm like, "All right, I'm going to tease it again." Yes. So then, like I said, I haven't confirmed or denied, but you know what? I've been actually thinking about this recently. So obviously, I got to kind of like switch it up with the content coming up here since I'm kind of taking a step away from the shows. I think I'm going to post a video about that, and I'm going to address the rumor once and for all.
Oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I have been wanting to ask you that for the longest time because the guy in that video does resemble you quite a bit. And that was a while ago. And of course, our appearances changed.
That was pre-Brock coming back. So
yeah. And it's crazy. You bring that up. And I've been trying to rack my brain when you and I first met. It literally was over a decade ago, but I remember when you were Markout Man. Like, I remember,
God, I was not expecting to bring that up.
And we won't go on. We won't go on. No, you know. But that's kind of how I first was introduced to you. Okay. You were the Markout Man, and I was like, I love this dude's energy. I love this dude's passion. I didn't even really know who you were, but then all of a sudden, our mutual friend, WWE's biggest fan, John Glick, united us together. And ever since that moment, I just feel like you and I have just always had a really special friendship where no matter how much time has gone by, no matter what city we see each other in, dude, you say I've been good to you. You have been good to me. And I can't thank you enough for just always being so real and genuine towards me. Because a lot of people, man, they don't think you're that way. But I tell people all the time, no, Mike is a very genuine, humble dude. He's just been on a grand scale where he got blown up. So of course, when you did the Brock Lesnar guy pose and that phenomenon took on a life of its own, of course people are going to think, well, he's just a WWE plant, or, he's got to be the cousin to Brock Lesnar, or, there's no way he can go to all these shows. They start doing what wrestling fans usually do best, and they come up with all these just made up scenarios that aren't true. So it's another reason why I've been wanting to get you on for a full episode of WellsMania Podcast to give you an opportunity to just showcase that you are a genuine good dude. And I think this episode 203, has definitely proven that. Of course, you're still going to have your doubters. You're still going to have your haters. But like you said early, fuck them. They don't matter. It doesn't matter what they think. What matters are the people who support you. And dude, you have so many people out here who really genuinely enjoy all that you do. So never for a second ever doubt. And I don't think you do, but I'm telling you, if you ever doubt yourself for a second, don't, because you are very loved in this community more than you think you are. And I have people all the time who are blown away. They're like, dude, you know the Brock Lesnar guy? Like, you know Wheezy Blonde, you know Frank the Clown, you know Chris Van Vliet. And I always tell them, like, these are real people. And all you ever have to do is when you see them out and about is just go up to them, be respectful, introduce yourself, be kind towards them, and they'll be the same way towards you. And I think a lot of people are afraid with social anxiety. I get it. Not everybody's as outgoing as you and I are. But if you're seeing this and you're always like, man, I've always wanted to say something to Brock Lesnar Guy, or I've always wanted to go up to him and ask for a picture, do it. I mean, he's most of the time, he is not going to turn you down. I mean, you have always, anytime I've ever asked you to do some content with me, you have always done it. And I remember when we were out.
I think we did a little content back in just this past Mania too at the Super
Yes, I saw you and I was like, well, fuck, there's Brock Lesnar Guy. I'm just gonna go ahead and do some content with him. And then speaking of ticket debacles, I will never forget this. But there I was up in my hotel room, which I stayed at the Park MGM, which overlooks the T-Mobile Arena. So if any of you are going to WrestleMania this year and you're wondering, what hotel should I stay at? I recommend the Park MGM because it's literally right on top of where SmackDown and Raw and NXT will be. I look down and I see a group of guys huddled, and I'm like, well, hell, I know who those guys are. It's Mike and John and Frank and Andy and I believe, and I'm spacing what her name is, Jessica, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
So I was like, well, I told my wife, I was like, hey, is it cool if I go to the show? And she's like, well, if you think you can get a ticket in time. I was like, all right, say no more. I gave her a kiss and I bolted down and joined your guys's group. And I was like, hey, what are you guys up to? And of course I knew what you guys were up to, but and then you were like, oh, hey, what's up, Wells? What are you doing here? And I was like, oh, I saw you from a hotel room. And we all were trying to get tickets to that. I believe it was the Raw after WrestleMania.
Yep.
And
didn't work out very well, did it?
Did not go the way that we wanted it to go. But I honestly, it was that experience with you guys that really meant so much, because I was like, we are literally all in this together. And it was just a really cool moment. I really enjoyed. I know people will be like, oh man, you guys missed out on the show. I was like, yeah, we missed out on it, but it was that experience hanging out with Brock Lesnar Guy and
the picture, but that picture that was taken of all of us, just like watching the opening segment on Raw in front of the ticket box office outside of the arena. And then I posted and people were just like, what the fuck? But here's the thing, though, like, there's sometimes, and like, don't get me wrong, like I don't think I've ever watched the show back in full, but like I actually saw it and it's like, yeah, it was a pretty big show. However, that weekend we were at the moment that mattered. We saw John Cena win his 17th title.
Yes.
So I look back at that weekend and it was like, I was there because, like, especially back in the day, like I used to go all out hitting every single event that was surrounded. But like, as I've like, evolved and like, matured, it's like, you don't need to be like at everything at WrestleMania week. Be at the moments that matter. Be at WrestleMania. That's the show that matters.
That's really good advice. And speaking of advice, what advice would you give other fans? Because a lot of people are like, well, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. So do you want to address those fans? Like how would you go about giving them advice on going to shows and what shows to go to and whatnot?
So obviously, nowadays, unfortunately, the big detriment with WWE shows now is how expensive they can be. However, there are hacks to it. And like I said, these hacks work sometimes and they don't work sometimes. Obviously, you found out firsthand these hacks don't always work. So, however,
Right.
they're it's such like a complicated and here's another content video that I can do, to go fully into it. And like when people stop me, like, short term, like, walking by me, like, how do you do the tickets? And like I give them like a short version of the answer and they think I'm trying to blow them off. Was like, dude, this is a very complex answer. One
Yes.
thing I can always say is, unless it's a show that becomes like red hot. So for example, like that SmackDown where AJ Lee returned, that turned into a whole different monster. Now, for most of your other WWE shows that you attend, maybe, and it's stressful, maybe wait till last minute,
Yep.
because prices will come down, not just on the Ticketmaster end, but on the resale end too. Because there's many different avenues how you can get these tickets. Ticketmaster, they'll even drop new tickets that never even existed. And it's not like, and here's the thing too, like, you're not given like alerts on when these happens. They just happen, and you just got to be vigilant with it. Now, as
Right.
far as being vigilant with it, as far as getting the exact seats you want, let's just say I'm insane. I know what to do, how to be ready for it, but in the moments to be ready, sometimes, sometimes I point, click, shoot, and I get them, and then sometimes I try, and then I get burned, and I've been lucky, I always tell people like 9 times out of 10 I get lucky, and then there's always those 10 times with the Raw after WrestleMania this year, it
Yeah.
happens. I get it, but it's just like, you know what, I've also like I've had my fun with it. I've been able to have experience for like the past 25 years plus now. And I've had my fun with it, and you win some and you lose some. Like, I'll give you a story too. Like, we did that. We were trying to do the ticket hack for Raw after Royal Rumble in 2014. We literally sat in the last row in the upper deck. But do you know what was really apropos about that show? It
What's
was
that?
it was the same show that CM Punk, he was not on the show, but he was there and he walked out of WWE. And then apropos, we sat in the last row for that show. Very,
Wow.
very. I'll never forget that, because like we didn't know until after the fact, but just crazy. So like, and then we got there early too, so it's very possible like while all that stuff was going down, we were by the ticket box office waiting for magic to happen. So
That's the thing too, is like you just never know what is going to happen at a wrestling show. And that's why I think that's part of the magic that's still going strong after all these years. Is like you said earlier, you watch the Raw is Stranger Things, and we're anticipating the possibility of Chris Jericho coming back. So you're going to tune in to see if Chris Jericho comes back. And now that we are in Royal Rumble season, the possibilities of the Riyadh Royal Rumble is going to be of epic proportions, because Riyadh has money and
yeah,
they're gonna want big names in the. Now, someone was like, "This isn't the first Royal Rumble in Riyadh, you idiot." I'm like, okay, that was the greatest Royal Rumble. That's different from this Royal Rumble. So yes, technically, the Royal Rumble this month in Riyadh is the first Royal Rumble to take place in Riyadh, because
see,
I don't consider it a part of the greatest Royal Rumble. That's its own thing. So,
do you know what just hit me? Chris Jericho's last appearance in WWE was that greatest Royal Rumble.
ooh, and there it is.
Full
The
circle.
full circle moment.
I just,
Hey,
because like when you brought that up, I was like, because I think, and I actually remember that too, but then I just put those two and two together. And it's funny too. It's just like, and going back to like, all like the internet hate that I got for posting that video, but like I feel better in the sense of fact where it's just like, it doesn't just come at me, but by the same token though, too, I think I said this on my Twitch stream the other day, where I got the tough skin, right? I can deal with it. I'm numb to it. Now, I don't appreciate it, but you know what? You haters are going to hate. But
right.
the one thing that does bother me is like when they do try to attack me, is they're not just trying to attack me, they're going after other people too. And I'm more
Mhm.
concerned about other people that they attack, and then they might react in a different way that can, like, I mean, obviously you've seen situations out there where it could lead to like really bad things. So
Yeah.
it's just like, it pisses me off because it's not what you're doing to me. I can take it, but what you're doing to other people, because like I said, you're not just doing it to me, you're doing it to other people. They might take it even worse. So it's like, that's why, and like I said, like, putting you over with how kind you are, it's just like we need to have more kindness in this. And it's just like, and I hate to say it, like, unfortunately, I don't think it's ever going to fully be that way. Like, we could get better, but it's just like there's going to be those people out there that are just going to just
Oh,
keep
yeah.
the hate. So
Can't win them all over. And that is why I pride myself on being at least one person in this community who is going about it in a very respectful, positive way. And I appreciate all the kind words that you throw my way, because not everybody voices that towards me. Sometimes I'll tell my wife, it's like, I record these episodes of WellsMania Podcast, and sometimes I don't get any feedback. So it's kind of like, did anybody watch? Does anybody care? So when people like you say the things that you do, and other people as well, I can't express it enough how much that means to me, because it's like, okay, people do care. They do appreciate what I am attempting to do out here in this crazy professional wrestling world, because people can be very, very vicious. And I'm like you, man, I've got these broad shoulders. God has blessed me with the strength to just really carry a bunch of weight on these shoulders. And I feel like, I try to influence others, and I'm sure you're the same way. Yes, we are going to receive all sorts of hate and negativity, but we do the John Cena method. We rise above hate, and we keep moving forward into whatever that new adventure is. And I think that's a great way to close this episode of WellsMania Podcast, because never say never in the world of professional wrestling. Maybe, just maybe, that passport will come in handy, and we might see the return of the Brock Lesnar Guy at a live WWE show, the Royal Rumble. After all, the Royal Rumble is all about surprises. No, I'm not throwing it out there. I'm just being funny, ladies and gentlemen. But no, Mike, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to run wild with me. I think that what you are doing over there with your Twitch at the Brock Lesnar Guy.
Yes. I had to add, there's like for TikTok the same way. I had to add the for those, but everything else is Brock Lesnar Guy.
At the Brock Lesnar Guy on Twitch. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, go do that right now. And is there anything else? Because I feel like we covered a lot about you on this episode. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before I send you on your way?
I think I just want to kind of leave it at this. I want to and I'm done addressing the haters, but I want to address all like my supporters, you included too, Kyle. It's just thank you, Kyle, for your positivity, and thank you for all the other kind words, support. Thank you to my friend DJ, who goes by Brendan, for helping me set up this computer, because I'm very technologically unsavvy with stuff. I'm getting there. I'm learning stuff now. Thank you to my friend Chris, who helped me clean up this room to even have this setup happen in the first place. Those are the two main people that like I'll be indebted to for the rest of my life, just as far as like launching this platform up. And then just thank you to everybody that's been very nice and kind to me over the years up until today, going back 25 years when I first started like getting into wrestling, just like even when I was a kid, people are like, oh, why are you into wrestling, whatever. It's just like, but then I've made friends because of wrestling, and then that's what I hold near and dear to my heart, the friends, you include, Kyle, of all the friends I've made through wrestling. So thank you. And then as far as like whatever happens in the future with me, I'm going to keep nailing it with this Twitch. And then like you said, man, never say never.
Hey, thank you so much, Mike. The Brock Lesnar Guy running wild on the first episode of 2026, episode 203 of WellsMania Podcast. Well, that is going to do it for WellsMania Podcast. And like I said, be sure to follow Brock Lesnar Guy, Mike, on his Twitch and all of his social media. You will find him. You kind of have to not be paying attention to find Brock Lesnar Guy on the social medias. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for running wild. You can find me everywhere at WellsMania. Until next episode, take care, stay positive, run wild, and dominate the day.